Taurus, the one who hurt you, will leave this karma never forgives. Perhaps you've been silent for too long, not because you lack the words, but because you are simply exhausted from holding your ground, from protecting the peace that is rightfully yours. Maybe it was a friend you once considered a confidant, a family member who claimed they would always be there, or even society itself, which has often shaken your foundations. You chose silence, not out of weakness, but because your steadfast heart was determined not to become someone who inflicts instability on others. But remember, karma is not silent. It has begun to speak, and today is the day you need to listen closely. Your steadfastness, and sometimes your silence, can often be the very signal that awakens karma. You once built upon solid foundations, lasting friendships, enduring love, unwavering trust. But when those foundations cracked, it left you stunned, not from a lack of feeling, but from the overwhelming loss of security and stability. You locked away your pain, breathing slowly, maintaining a calm exterior, continuing with life as if nothing had changed. Yet deep inside, your spirit felt unsettled, like a tree whose roots felt shaken. In time, you learned to stand tall on your own, perhaps even firmer than before. You stopped sharing your struggles, choosing instead to navigate life independently. Trust eroded, caution grew, and you sought peace, true stability. Yet every so often, that old sting would resurface, triggered by a memory, perhaps a familiar object, an old place, or a fleeting thought. And you'd wonder, did they ever recognize the value of what they lost? Do they remember the loyalty and steadfastness you offered? Is their life truly stable after all that transpired? Some answers are not yours to seek, for karma has already begun its work. Not everyone who walks away does so peacefully. Not everyone who inflicts pain lives without consequences. Some carry the weight of their actions silently, living with the ghosts of their past. They may wear smiles, but inside they grapple with feelings of emptiness regarding value, questioning themselves in ways they cannot articulate. Karma operates quietly, like the steady beat of the earth, consistent and relentless. You don't need to demand justice or expose anyone for sympathy. The universe doesn't require an audience to bring forth the truth. Karma starts within those who caused the pain. It manifests as a sense of lost security, creeping in at night, a feeling of being adrift, despite seeking stability, or a relationship that feels hollow despite their attempts to rebuild value. You see, dear Taurus, you don't need revenge. Your steadfastness and self-worth are your greatest strengths. You had every opportunity to retaliate, to make them feel ashamed, or to take something precious from them. But you didn't, not because you lacked the capability, but because you understood that responding with instability would only make you like them. You chose to maintain stability within your heart, even when others turned away. You may not have fully forgiven, but you chose to move forward for your own peace. You didn't need to expose their wrongs because you knew karma doesn't require evidence, it only needs truth. You continued to live with inner fortitude, and that is what karma respects most. Though they may have left, their energy lingers. They still carry the weight of their actions, the memories of what they did, even if they pretend to forget. They hold on to the image of you, the steady disappointment in your eyes, and the resolute silence that spoke volumes. That silence is what set karma into motion. The universe doesn't roar, it doesn't seek revenge in the way we might expect. Instead, it gently places them back into situations similar to those they once created for you. It allows them to trust someone unreliable, to have something they deemed stable taken away, to feel their own value overlooked and discarded, not as punishment, but as a lesson they must learn. You learned your lesson with patience and endurance. They must learn through the consequences of their actions. In that moment, you are set free. You no longer require an apology or a confession. You realized that you deserve peace and stability more than you need closure from someone who turned their back on your worth. Forgiveness isn't about erasing the pain, it's about making space for solidity to return. If I could share a message from my heart to yours, it would be this. You've done incredibly well. You didn't seek revenge. You didn't force anyone to repent. You stood firm, embodying steadfastness of spirit. And the world needs more souls like you, those who remain solid even after experiencing hurt. You don't have to wait long for change. If you're hearing this, you've likely begun to notice the transformations in your life. One day, you'll look back and understand that everything you endured wasn't meant to break you. It was meant to help you rebuild your foundations, stronger, more resilient, and capable of withstanding any storm. There are moments when you don't need to push anyone out of your life. They step away on their own, fading quietly as if following a universal law. Not because you're cold, but because you've learned not to hold on to those who don't belong in your secure space. You once believed that if you just tried a bit harder, held on a bit longer, they would stay. Yet each time you clung to someone who was no longer a match, you put yourself in an unstable situation where no one came to offer you security. As a Taurus, you love with commitment and loyalty, often silently bearing the weight of disappointment. No one sees you cracking because you hide it behind a calm facade. But inside, you know your foundations have been shaken. Not everyone who enters your life is a gift. Some come to teach you how to choose your own stability and self-worth again. That's when karma begins to unfold, not as punishment, but as the process of learning the lessons your soul needs. You no longer need to win. You understand that karma doesn't come to break anyone. It comes to awaken them. You've awakened that person, and now they must confront the consequences of their actions. Karma isn't a strike from above, it's a law that moves through energy and balance. When someone plants an action, a word, or an indifference that causes instability, it enters the emotional fabric of the universe and eventually circles back to them in unexpected ways. They may not experience the same pain you did, but they will encounter feelings of diminished value, moments that make them question themselves, and reminders of their past actions, of how they treated your steadfastness. They will hear a phrase, a melody, or feel an emotion that brings them back to the regret of how they treated the stability you represented. You don't need to witness their suffering to feel a sense of justice. You are a practical soul, valuing stability, and you understand that you lived your truth and upheld your values. That is the karma most revered, a soul that doesn't demand repayment, yet the universe still delivers balance. You once wanted them to stay, but not at the cost of your stability or dignity. You didn't want to feel insecure or uncertain about their commitment. You chose to withdraw in silence, freeing yourself from the cycle of karma and allowing it to handle the rest. That person will exit your life uniquely, not with a dramatic farewell, but gradually, step by step. You'll notice they no longer resonate with your steady energy, like two notes that once harmonized but now clash out of tune. You'll find that you no longer feel sorrow for their absence. Isn't it strange? Someone you once tried so hard to keep now evokes only a wish for them to find where they truly belong. You let go, not out of weakness, but because you've grown too strong to waste energy on a place your heart no longer calls home, a place that no longer feels secure. You've learned your lesson, and now it's their turn. There's no longer a you for them to lean on, no more patient forgiveness to offer, no more wondering if they still care. It's just them and the echoes of unresolved pasts. Society needs to learn to respect those who dare to walk away from places where stability and respect no longer thrive. No one should be judged for choosing themselves, nor should anyone be labeled as selfish for saying, "I don't want to feel insecure anymore." You, dear Taurus, have endured so much, and today you are a beacon of hope for countless others still trapped in the instability you once knew. You didn't leave to hurt anyone. You left to save your own peace and stability, and that is the most sacred act you could have performed for your soul. You don't have to play the role of the patient one forever. You only need to be honest with your feelings and needs. If you're tired, rest. If you're in pain, breathe deeply and find your inner solidity. If you want to cut ties, then do it. Every time you betray your own need for stability to hold on to someone, you abandon your own soul. Karma truly begins to heal when you detach from someone who chose instability or offered only half-hearted commitment. You've walked this path with steadfastness and kindness, with a heart that knows how to commit and how to let go when necessary. And now, that person is slowly exiting your emotional landscape, while you return to the peace and stability you've long deserved. You once held on to them with all your persistence, clinging to a relationship, a belief, or a person, as if letting go would shatter your world. But slowly, gently, you were released, not by them, but by the universe itself. During those long nights when you silently endured, the universe whispered to you, "You deserve something more solid." You once believed that holding on was an act of bravery, that true loyalty meant never giving up on the stability you built. But effort is not always rewarded with commitment. Sometimes it leaves you drained and feeling devalued. You, Taurus, love with the most steadfast part of your soul. You don't just love with your heart, you love with loyalty, reliability, and a steady presence. Each day, you held on to them with trust, with silent forgiveness for minor instabilities, fearing that if you left, no one would ever offer them the kind of stability you did. But then came the moment of realization, the moment when the universe no longer allowed you to hold on. All your efforts to salvage the stability began to crumble piece by piece. Words ceased to connect. Presence began to fade. Your practical intuition, always reliable, began to nudge your heart, saying, "It's time to let go." Not because you failed, but because you should never win by losing your peace and self-worth. Some people enter our lives solely to teach us how to choose ourselves again, and they fulfilled that role by hurting you just enough, shaking your foundation just enough to make change inevitable. They began to drift away, not all at once, but in small moments, a blunt reply, a broken promise, undermining trust, an empty gaze. Even when you stood right in front of them, they felt distant, their touch perhaps physically there, but emotionally cold. Eventually, they left without a proper goodbye, for in truth, they had already departed long ago. Only their physical presence remained. You didn't blame them. Even though you felt betrayed and abandoned, your foundations shaken without explanation. You lost sleep, trying to find a logical reason for the senseless, yet you never wished for them to suffer. Your heart, the heart of a Taurus, might hold on to hurt, but it doesn't easily embrace pure hatred. You only hoped that someday they would understand, that they once had someone who loved them with all the steadfastness in the world, that they were once sheltered by your reliable presence, and that they were forgiven for things they never even apologized for. You wished for their growth, not because you wanted them to suffer, but because you didn't want anyone else to endure the instability you once did. That is grace, a silent, unseen grace that emerges from the compassion of a soul that has weathered many storms and remained standing. Taurus doesn't wish for those who hurt them to fall. They only hope that they don't repeat their destabilizing actions with someone else. You live like this, and that's why karma doesn't need your voice. Karma doesn't seek revenge. It seeks to restore balance and truth. The universe doesn't require anyone to shout or keep score. It only needs you to live in alignment with your own stability and values. Everything that doesn't resonate with that frequency will naturally fall away, including that person. They could no longer hear your steady heart because you no longer held on to them with the same unwavering faith. You grew. You withdrew your energy from an unstable game without clear rules. Once you pulled back from what no longer nourished your sense of security, there was no reason for them to remain. They left, and that is how karma works. No one needs to be in pain. Someone simply needs to awaken. When they lost you, they didn't understand. But when they can no longer find similar stability or reliability elsewhere, they will remember. They will realize what it feels like to be abandoned, to lose their solid ground just when they needed a foundation most. They will understand when they feel lost, even while surrounded by everything material they thought they wanted. They will come to know that you were the stability they should never have taken for granted or lost. Karma doesn't arrive with thunder. It comes in a moment of quiet reflection, when they ask themselves, why doesn't anyone offer me that kind of security the way they once did? And you've moved far beyond that energy. You've transcended the need to prove your worth or to wait for a message, an acknowledgement. Now you live steadfastly, smiling without needing validation. That's when you realize their departure wasn't a loss, it was a beginning, a new journey where no one makes you question your own stability or worth. If you still feel a twinge of sorrow, close your eyes and whisper to yourself, I cherished, valued them with all the steadfastness I had. Now it's time to cherish, value myself. If they still have lessons to learn, let karma be their teacher. You've made it through, dear Taurus, with all your endurance and a heart that never wanted to see anyone in pain, even the one who shook your foundations. After all those silent battles, they began to leave. Not through words, but through energy. Not through actions, but through signs that only your grounded soul could feel when it was still enough. In that moment, the universe began to speak. You may no longer see them, but your soul senses that something is ending. There are mornings when everything seems unchanged. Their names still linger in your contacts, yet inside you feels different, vague, but certain. You no longer perceive them the same way, not with your eyes, but with your energy. That's when you realize something has quietly shifted. The universe doesn't announce this change with loud noises. It uses silence, sending you subtle yet tangible signs, a song that stops you in your tracks, a haunting dream, or repeating numbers that appear before your eyes. You feel a disconnection when you're near them, even though just yesterday you might have felt secure. You can't name it, but you know it's a sign. Taurus doesn't chase after vague signs. You listen because your practical intuition understands that the soul always senses an imbalance the logical mind might not yet admit. You don't seek answers from the outside. You don't need anyone's confirmation. You only need to stay silent long enough to hear the whispers from your inner steadfastness. One day, you'll hear the soft bell of an ending, gentle yet impossible to ignore. You don't panic, you don't blame, and you don't demand a farewell. You simply step back, enveloped in a steady silence that no one taught you. Society teaches us how to start love, but not how to release it peacefully. It encourages us to fight to win, to cling, but not to return what no longer belongs to us or serves our stability. Taurus understood this early on, not because you were born strong, but because you've been strengthened through enduring cracks. You've learned that not every break is a loss. Some fractures are meant to free you from dependency on the unstable. When that person begins to fade, you don't ask why. Instead, you ponder what you were holding on to. Deep down, you realize you may have clung to them out of fear of change, fear that no one else could offer that same familiarity. But you were wrong, not because they didn't matter, but because you underestimated your own inner light and resilience. You don't need to hold on to anyone out of insecurity. You don't need to beg them to stay or shrink yourself to fit their world. You certainly don't need to remain in a place your soul left long ago because it no longer felt secure. Do you know when karma begins to shift? Not when they leave you, but when you start to pull your energy back. You stop reacting as you once did, perhaps with stubbornness born of hurt. You're no longer triggered by what used to destabilize you. You become quiet, steady, clear. Karma doesn't arrive with anger. It arrives with the absence of the old vibration. When you're no longer dependent, resentful, or clinging, the universe begins to return you to yourself, to your core stability. And that other person? They feel it, not through logic, but through the emptiness where you once filled their space with reliable, unconditional love. They see everything looks the same, but why doesn't it feel enough? They see you smile, but why doesn't it feel like home, their secure harbor anymore? They notice your silence, but this time it holds no expectation. You don't withdraw to threaten. You step back because you've seen something they haven't, the lack of a true foundation. You're no longer willing to pay the price for a relationship that no longer moves towards stability and light. You may still remember them, but you don't wish to return. You've learned to cherish the memories without letting them dictate your present. This isn't about hatred, it's about growth. A growth that only those who have truly felt their value diminished can understand. When someone asks how you know it's time to leave, the answer is simple. You may still care, but that care no longer compels you to stay. You may miss them, but the longing doesn't push you to act. You cherish what you had, yet your heart begins to carve its own peaceful, stable path. You no longer cry for them. Instead, you cry for yourself, for the time spent in a place where your value was no longer recognized. In those tears, you say goodbye to an old version of yourself, the one who waited, who held on, who feared change and instability. You're bidding farewell to the part of you that lived for others' stability more than for your own. And in that goodbye, you open a door for your soul to move forward, steadier, brighter, and more aligned with who you truly are. You no longer need a clear ending because the signs have been sent. You've heard the whispers, felt the shifts in energy, and you don't resist anymore. This is when you learn how to let go of what is trying to leave, not because it didn't matter, but because you no longer want to imprison anything or yourself out of fear. You allow everything to be itself, and you choose to be yourself, solid and grounded. Strangely enough, it's precisely when you let go with gratitude for the lesson learned that the universe begins to bring in something better, something aligned with your true, stable essence. You don't need to fight. You don't need to repeat old emotional cycles. You're starting a new chapter where sadness is no longer a chain, but becomes the guiding light toward true peace. You once sacrificed your peace to hold on to someone who didn't recognize your worth. There's a quiet truth your soul has felt for a long time. You no longer belong to that place, not because you didn't love enough or weren't good enough, but because that place no longer acknowledges your value. The heartbreak doesn't lie solely in the betrayal. It lies in realizing you traded your precious peace and stability for someone who didn't appreciate it. Letting go is not a sign of weakness. It's the final act of someone who has given so much steadfastness. You've picked up the broken pieces of a relationship only to discover your worth was never truly valued there. Taurus doesn't dwell in anger. You don't need to expose or judge. Instead, you withdraw your energy, and when a Taurus love goes quiet and withdraws its reliable presence, it's a signal that you won't find it again in the same way. You understand that healing cannot occur in the same place that once damaged your foundation. When your soul learns this lesson, you realize that letting go can sometimes be the deepest act of love and self-preservation you offer yourself. Karma doesn't stem from loving the wrong person. It arises from knowing something is wrong, unstable, devaluing, and still choosing to stay, trying to force stability where it cannot grow. Every time you repeat the emotional cycle, trying to fix things, apologizing on behalf of both, staying silent just to maintain a false peace, that's when karma continues, not to punish you, but to awaken you. Karma teaches that love isn't a battlefield. You don't have to sacrifice your dignity or stability to be loved. You don't need to diminish your steadfast kindness to make someone stay. When you're clear-eyed enough to see this, you step out of the emotional reincarnation, declaring, "I have learned." That's when karma releases you first. You may have once feared being alone, feared change, believed you couldn't live without them, or thought that letting go would signify failure. But letting go is never a failure. It's a milestone of self-worth, a powerful declaration that you deserve something more solid and valuable. Taurus doesn't leave to make a statement. You leave because you know it's time to return to yourself, to your stable core. Your grace doesn't lie in how many times you forgive, but in how, at the end of it all, you refuse to let your heart turn to stone, even after enduring neglect, instability, and pain that shook your sense of security. What truly sends a powerful message to the world isn't someone shouting, "I was betrayed," but someone quietly rising from a toxic or unstable relationship and saying, "I've had enough. I deserve better." Every time someone like you dares to walk away from a place that no longer respects them or offers stability, you're not just saving yourself, you're saving a part of society that once believed love equated to suffering or enduring instability. You're opening a new path where steadfastness doesn't need to be sacrificed. The moment you let go, not to escape, but to honor yourself and your need for peace, the universe begins to rearrange everything. You might not see it immediately. It won't come in glittering miracles, but through small doors, gently opening at the right time, bringing opportunities for genuine stability. That's when the miracle quietly approaches. Close your eyes for a moment, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, how much of your peace and stability have you traded to hold onto a relationship that no longer nourished you? If the answer stirs your heart, then you're already ready to enter the next chapter. When you declare, "I've had enough," you're not closing a door. You're creating space for something greater, something truly stable to enter. And that's exactly where we're headed next. You once thought you couldn't live without them, but you've come back to life as your true, grounded self. You once said, "I can't live without them. I can't let go while my heart is still loyal," or "I can't turn away while I still believe in this foundation." But one day, not through a dramatic event, but through quiet exhaustion, you reached a new threshold within your soul. Not a limit of pain, but the edge of awakening. You silently declared, "I've had enough. No anger, no demands, no need for anyone to confirm whether you were right or wrong." Just one powerful sentence rooted in self-worth that closed the karmic cycle that had been repeating, perhaps through many relationships or lifetimes. Miracles don't come to those who wait indefinitely. They appear when you let go at the right moment, choosing your own well-being. What held you back was never just love. It was often the illusion that you wouldn't find anything better or more stable. That illusion is one of the most subtle forms of karma, keeping you lingering in unstable limbo, waiting for someone else to provide security, forgetting that you were once the rock for others before you realized you needed to be your own rock first. Karma doesn't arrive as punishment. It comes as repetition until the lesson is learned. It doesn't punish you for loving the wrong person. It brings you to a point of reset where you must choose yourself, your stability. You declare, "No one has the right to shake my foundations or devalue me, not even the one I love." When you choose to withdraw from the wound, when you no longer react in old ways like stubborn resistance, you step out of the emotional cycle of rebirth. Karma ends, not because you begged, but because you no longer need to relearn that lesson about self-worth and stability. Taurus doesn't typically seek someone new just to fill the void. You welcome the new only when the old energy, the instability, has been cleansed. You don't enter the next relationship with a patched-up heart. You don't seek love out of emptiness or insecurity. You embark on this new journey because you have healed, regrounded yourself. This time, what comes must be pure and stable enough to ensure you don't lose yourself again. Society teaches us to hold on, to try harder, to win at all costs, but Taurus teaches the opposite. Letting go at the right time, choosing stability, is the ultimate strength of the steadfast spirit. You let go, not to escape, but because you understand what is truly worth keeping: your peace, your self-worth, your inner stability. You let go because your steadfastness is no longer meant to heal or stabilize souls that refuse to learn their own lessons. And then, the miracle begins to unfold. Not loud, not flashy, but in the quiet moments of newfound peace. You sleep better. You no longer blame yourself. Each morning, you wake up and smile for no reason at all, feeling grounded. You look in the mirror and whisper, "I'm good enough. I am enough. I am worthy. Strangely, you no longer feel like anyone is missing. What is a miracle if not the moment you return to yourself, solid and whole, free from the need for the one who once made you think you couldn't live without them or made you doubt your own stability? You are no longer who you once were. You no longer need external validation to feel worthy and secure. You've closed the chapter on karma with gratitude for the lesson learned. Once the lesson is learned, karma lets go, and the universe clears the path. You, who once stumbled because of loving the wrong way or placing your stability in unsteady hands, are now walking with a new heart, not hardened or hateful, but filled with the light of inner stability and self-knowledge. If you feel you're touching a new level of energy, let me guide you to the final part of this journey. After every trial, you were once the one who quietly endured. Now, you're the one glowing with steadfast light. You don't know exactly when that moment arrived. No bells rang, no fireworks exploded, no one applauded to say you've made it. It was simply a quiet morning when you looked out the window and realized your heart was still and peaceful. No more bleeding wounds, only scars healed beautifully and worn with the pride of resilience. You've been reborn in your own solidity. Rebirth isn't a singular awakening moment. It's a silent process where every broken piece inside you reconnects with the light of self-reliance instead of the fear of instability. You no longer need anyone to understand your pain to feel worthy. You don't have to recount everything you've been through just to elicit pity. You only need to keep moving forward, rebuilding your life on your own terms, and that alone is the most powerful proof of your soul's resurrection. Someone once made you believe you were weak for being too steadfast, naive for trusting too long, and foolish for loving too loyally. But now you understand. It was those very qualities, tempered with wisdom, that saved you. You didn't allow pain to turn you into someone bitter or unstable. You preserved your core humanity and steadfastness in a world full of wounds. Taurus doesn't shine because they're lucky. They shine because they walked through the dark without hardening their hearts, maintaining their inner strength. You don't glow because of something given from the outside. You glow because you dared to walk through pain with awareness. No revenge, no bitterness, no darkness carried into the next chapter. You let the light of your own stability win, not to prove anything, but because you know no one deserves to hurt, not even you. Karma is complete, not when others pay, but when you no longer wish for them to. The universe does not punish. It arranges and balances. The moment you choose peace over revenge, move forward instead of arguing, and hold on to your steadfastness instead of needing to win. Karma closes one door and opens another, more stable one. No longer are you the person lost in others' instability, no longer the one who thought love meant enduring devaluation. Now, it's you, a free, strong, solid soul, more beautiful than ever because you've learned to value yourself the way you once wrongly valued others or unstable situations. Rebirth isn't starting over. It's continuing with a heart that knows who it is, what it needs, and what it's worth. You don't need someone walking beside you to feel grounded. You don't need love to arrive to believe you're worthy. You know what's meant for you, what is genuinely stable and valuable, will come when you live true to your steadfast soul. We still live in a world where endurance is sometimes mislabeled as kindness, where silence in the face of pain is mistaken for acceptance. But there will come a time when the world needs more souls like Taurus. Those who have hit rock bottom but never dragged anyone down with them, who rebuilt their foundations stronger than before. Those who choose letting go or forgiveness not out of weakness, but from a place of strength, understanding what is truly worth keeping in their hearts and lives, peace, dignity, and self-worth. And if you, the ones still listening, are in pain, unsure how to let go, or wondering when you'll see a miracle like others have, then please believe this. The fact that you're still here, still listening, still seeking stability and valuing yourself is already the first miracle. You didn't walk away from yourself. You didn't shut your heart completely. You didn't choose revenge, even though you could have. You are being reborn, not because someone came to lift you up, but because you, even when your foundations were shaken, never gave up on the light of your own inner strength and worth. If this message resonates with you, don't leave in silence. Leave a dot, a heart, or a message, because who knows? The words you share about finding your own stability might just save someone still lost in the instability where you once were. You deserve to see the sun, and this time the light will come from within your own steadfast heart. Thank you, Taurus, for never stopping believing in your own strength and worth. If you've ever walked through the hell of instability, then today you deserve to enter the heaven of peace you've created with your own strong, resilient heart.